Thank you to all of the patriots gathered here to stand up for our Constitution. Are we going to do that? Yes. To stand up for due process. Are we going to do that? Yes. And to stand up for the First Amendment of the United States. Are we going to do that? Yes. So I want to thank all of you gathered here. Yes, to stand up for the rights of Mohsen Mahdawi. Also to stand up for the rights of Mahmoud Khalil. Also to stand up for the rights of Rumeza Ozturk. And to stand up for the rights of all the students who were illegally abducted from their neighborhoods, from the streets, by the U.S. government, by the Trump administration. That should not happen in the United States of America. In the case of Mahmoud Khalil, we saw him snatched from his family, his wife, a United States citizen. His wife just delivered a baby while he was in detention in Louisiana. In the case of Ms. Ozturk, you've probably seen the videos. Fulbright student at Tufts University. People come up to her, some people with masks on, and just take her off the streets. An illegal abduction. She's also in Louisiana right now. And of course, the case of Mohsen Mahdawi, who was going through the process of taking his citizenship test and being confirmed as a United States citizen. He understands we have a Constitution. I will tell you, I don't think Secretary Rubio could pass a citizenship test today. And I want them to hear that on the 7th floor. You know, Senator Rubio used to take to the Senate floor all the time. He used to talk about an American foreign policy based on promoting democracy, based on human rights, based on freedom of religion, based on freedom of speech around the world. And now, as Secretary of State, he is trashing freedom of speech right here at home. You know, I grew up in a Foreign Service family. I was proud to be from a family that represented the United States overseas. We are far from perfect. We have a lot of work to do to live up to the principles that we stand for overseas. But one of the things we do is we work to stand up as a beacon for human rights and freedom of speech. At least we used to, until the Trump administration came along, until Secretary Rubio came along. So instead of promoting freedom of speech overseas, he is ripping up the First Amendment of the Constitution here at home. That is shameful. That is shameful, and the American people should not stand for it, because it's absolutely true. If you rip up the Constitution for one man or one woman or one person in the United States, you threaten First Amendment rights for everybody in the United States of America. Now, Secretary Rubio has dug back into a McCarthy-era statute from what was called the McCarran-Walter Act at the height of the McCarthy era to say that these students represent a threat to the foreign policy of the United States of America. That is pathetic, right? We have students who are protesting or urging for Palestinian rights against the war in Gaza, and they somehow represent a threat to the great United States of America. This is a shameful and obviously wrong argument. And I really hope the judges and courts of the United States see right through that sham that Rubio has concocted. So instead of actually being Secretary of State and promoting freedom of speech overseas, he has become the porter-in-chief of students here in the United States and someone who shreds the Constitution. But it's not only freedom of speech he and the Trump administration are shredding, it's other constitutional rights like due process. Thank you, Becca, for mentioning Abrego Garcia, Kilmar Abrego Garcia. This is a man who was snatched off the streets of Maryland. He was driving with his 5-year-old autistic son, and all of a sudden disappeared into the U.S. detention system, and then taken by plane where he couldn't see out the windows, didn't know where he was going, to El Salvador, and placed in one of the most notorious prisons in the Western Hemisphere. And the Trump administration had admitted in court, they had told the judge that he had been wrongfully abducted and deported. But instead of fixing their, quote, administrative error that landed him in the gulag, instead of fixing that, they decided to punish the lawyer who told the truth in court. Yeah. And now we have a 9-0 Supreme Court decision saying they have to facilitate his return, which they are ignoring. And whether it's these cases of these students, like the 3 I mentioned, but others, if we don't stand up for their constitutional rights and their First Amendment rights, then shame on us. Because, as Becca said, what authoritarians and bullies, what they count on is all of us cowering in the corner. They want us to go away. They don't want us to exercise our First Amendment rights. So thank all of you as patriotic Americans, because we will not be bullied and we will not be silenced, and we will stand up for the First Amendment and the Constitution of the United States. Thank you, great patriots gathered here.